This is another PDX Toy Collective State of the Union, State of Emergency, State of the Toy Industry address. I usually don't make videos about current hot topics, but here we are. Felt appropriate considering New York Toyfair just wrapped up, and while you would have thought Hasbro would have brought their best, newest, and most interesting toys for display, they completely shit the bed and may have had one of their worst outings since the 2010s. I'm not a Hasbro hater, at least not 99% of the time, but boy howdy are they making it hard not to dislike them. John Hasbro really put on a full shit show this year. I guess we should probably start with the Transformers, since that is my forte, that is my collecting focus, and that is one of the things I'm the biggest fan of. And I think it's notable to start off with the fact that it is the 40th anniversary of the 1986 The Transformers the movie. Love this movie, hate this movie, indifferent towards the movie. Doesn't matter, it's a milestone well worth celebrating. And to celebrate it, Hasbro's marketing team has put together The Transformers the movie, The Apology Tour, which feels incredibly dismissive and maybe even a little patronizing to Transformers fans. The idea behind this is that they're essentially apologizing for the 86 movie. They're sorry for killing Optimus Prime. They're sorry for killing all the characters you like. They're sorry for introducing Hot Rod. They're sorry for your parents' divorce, and they're sorry for your childhood hopes and dreams being crushed. And I get that it's meant to be a joke and a little jovial and sarcastic, but it really does feel dismissive. Like, oh, you man-children, you still haven't gotten over Optimus Prime's deaths 40 years later. Let me call the Wambulance for you and tell you that we're sorry.
Oh, look, an ambulance. Now then.
Look, if you are an old Transformers fan who has still not gotten over the death of Optimus Prime, you've got bigger problems, okay? And I think Hasbro really is just taking the wrong approach with this. I get that it's meant to be a joke, but at the same time, there is a lot to celebrate in the Transformers the movie. It's a fun movie. It's got a great soundtrack, and it's beautiful animation for the time. I really feel like they should have just re-released it in theaters or given some sort of special release on Blu-ray, 4K, Steelbook, whatever. But instead, all they say is, have fan screenings of the movie, listen to the soundtrack, and buy our new toys. It's just so low effort, and really that transitions pretty well into the Toyfair reveal, specifically Studio Series 86, which is full of repaints. Sunstreaker and Wheeljack are direct repaints of their Kingdom and Earthrise figures from a few years prior, which are fine, but they are not Studio Series quality. They do not look like the Sunbow character models. And I feel like the reuse of these Generations figures in Studio Series is really indicative of my problems with the Generations toy line for the past few years. It really feels like it's been in a rut. The figures aren't stylized enough to stand on their own like the 2010s era of Generations or Classics 06. But they're not on model enough that they look like they can replace your Masterpiece figures or your third-party figures like New Age. They're just in this weird kind of gray dead zone. And that's not to say the figures are bad, there's really good offerings. I like the Diaclone repaint of the Sunstreaker mold as Corden and Spin Out, Turn Out, whatever the hell the red one's called in Transformers lore. And I love the Exhaust repaint in Generation Selects of the Wheeljack mold. They're fine figures, but really they're much more interesting when they're kind of fun, wacky, strange repaints, at least for me. Obviously, there were some new molds shown off. For example, Carnage, which looks pretty good. He looks accurate to the weird fluoro dairy art. I feel like of all figures, he probably should have been just a regular action figure, but I do appreciate they pulled out the weird, out-of-pocket Marvel UK Marvel Compendium alternate mode that was drawn up for him when they thought he was going to be a regular Transformer. It's a nice to have, it's a neat to have, not necessarily a need to have, and also, his engineering looks a little wonky, especially on those hips. Like, this is really outdated. I feel like they should have done a little bit better. And then speaking of better, what the fuck is wrong with Astro Train? This might be one of the worst Astro Train figures I have ever seen. Like, there was that Fun Publications repaint of the Armada one that was all weird and bloated, but it was at least interesting and fun. This thing, it looks like, is completely emaciated. Like, he has not seen food nor water in decades. They just dug him out of Tutankhamun's tomb, alright? What is wrong with this toy? Like, seriously, it feels like there's a lost episode of Sunbow where Astro Train and Starscream went to Egypt and were both affected by the Pharaoh's curse. This is so bizarre, and the Ultra modes don't even look good. It's pretty much a known quantity at this point that when you make a triple changer, the robot mode should look good, and the alternate modes are going to look a little iffy. Astro Train has done a little better over the years than not, but this thing is so gappy and strange and weird. It reminds me of Blitzwing from a couple years back, where they made him 2-on model to the Sunbow character model, where he had his like weird cockpit hanging out in his tank mode, which is, you know, it's just a peripheral from the original toy. They could have done better. I don't know. I'm so astounded that a toy this new looks this bad, all right? They should know better at this point. There's a reason why everybody's picking on this Astro Train, and it's well-deserved. You just take one look at this guy and wonder, why couldn't they have just judged up the Siege or Earthrise Astro Train mold? And you might say it's because it's too old, but Studio Series isn't above that. The Studio Series 86 RC is just the Thrilling 30 RC, but slightly worse. And clearly they're not above retooling the older figures, because Studio Series 86 Shockwave is just a retooled version of Siege Shockwave, which was pretty spot on to begin with. Really all they did was de-greeble him. Maybe it's just because they're rerunning the Shockwave tooling because of the Whale Wave we haven't seen hide nor hair of, but it still proves that they can take a figure that's decent and zhuzh it up a little bit for the Studio Series 86 line, and they have no problem doing that. Let's see, are there any other Studio Series releases that warrant discussion? There's an 86 Skywarp, which we knew was coming. Looks good, looks great, but it's not going to replace my other Skywarps or my New Age figures. There's a rerun of Leader Snarl, that's fine, good. And there's the Roleplay 86 Matrix, which is kind of superfluous in the grand scheme of things. I guess it's a cool display piece, but it doesn't feel prestige, you know? It doesn't feel like one of those Tom Spina prop replicas, or hell, even like a Bondi prop replica like my Sheer Heart Attack. It looks fine. If you dig it, go ahead and buy it. I guess we should move on to the Generations shitstorm. Age of the Prime's Bruticus was shown off in his full combine mode, and he looks fine if you like the skeleton combiners. I don't. I think they look bad, and he looks very stout, very short in the legs. And I've also never liked the Sunbow Bruticus character model with the shuttle wings from Blastoff becoming the chest. I feel like the brown and purple just kind of breaks up the cohesion, whereas that original like silver on silver chest plate from the G1 toy just looks fantastic in my opinion. I would love it if Generations, instead of going Sunbow, went with like Studio Aux character models instead. Generations Power Glide looks passable. It's cute that he has the Hoist Goes Hollywood alien mask, but man, that Warthog alt mode just looks really rough. I don't know what it is with Hasbro kind of fumbling on the alt modes these days. Swerve is okay. He looks like a good mix between G1 Swerve and the IDW interpretation, so it's all right. Nothing exciting. Same with the Prime Smokescreen and the TFA style Ratchet. Though I will say the TFA Ratchet from the, I think it's the Hoist, if not Trailbreaker mold, is actually pretty clever. It works well. Armada Sideways got shown off, and for what he is, he looks good. I'm a certified Unicron Trilogy hater, so, you know, Armada, Energon, Cybertron, they can all get out of here for all I care. However, Sideways is a pretty interesting character design and one of the more iconic ones from that series, and they did a pretty good job realizing that here. It's a good modernization. You know, they gave him articulation, they gave him paint detail, they gave him those things Armada toys don't have. The other two major reveals here are the eponymous primes themselves. We've got Nexus Prime and Liege Maximo, and I think we should start with Nexus Prime because he's got the most problems. Now in continuity, Nexus Prime is meant to represent combiners and gestalt, so it makes perfect sense that he's going to be one himself. The original toy was, after all. However, the engineering on display here really highlights my problems with the skeleton style of combiner that they're going forward with. If he was a regular Scramble City figure, it'd be perfectly fine that he's just the torso. He would have all of the combining elements integrated in. However, he's just the torso section here and needs Superion skeleton frame to achieve a full combiner form. Add on to that, he's not going to get his own dedicated limb robots until 2027, so you're left with a complete mess until then. And also, as an individual robot, he just looks incredibly uninspired and bland. I understand that he's meant to look like the original Timeline's Fun Publications concept art for Nexus Prime, but it just looks like a very weak homage to the Diaclone Mecha, the pre-Car Robots ones, like Multiforce or the Landmaster Computer. What I am a lot more excited for is the Liege Maximo release. I feel like this figure is really true to his appearance in the Generation 2 comic. Obviously, there's some liberties taken and some flourishes, but it looks pretty much like what I would want, kind of like G-Axis. This is pure Simon Furman nonsense. In continuity, I'm not a huge fan of the Liege Maximo being one of the 13 primes. I like him as a weird cosmic evil just somewhere out in the universe. In IDW and the Covenant of Primus from the Aligned continuity, they really leaned into him being like the Transformers equivalent of Loki. And I do think it's a good design. I'd love a figure of that eventually, but I'm really happy with the G2 nonsense that we have here. My only real criticisms of the figure come down to the paint and head sculpt, and those kind of play into each other. The one time that we see Liege Maximo in the Generation 2 comics, he's in very, very heavy shadow. And that was the style of the time. It was the 90s. It's very exaggerated. So you don't actually get to see a lot of Liege Maximo on display. So because of that, they had to fill in a lot of the gaps through interpretation. And while I think they did a fair job, I think the biggest problem is the fact that the large horns are not actually attached to his head. They are behind his head. So that head only really looks good from a front-facing angle. And add on top of that, the silver tone used for his face is just a little too light in my opinion. It should have been a dark gunmetal or just gone full black, shaded in like the G2 comic. I still like the figure, I'm going to pick him up, but he just has a couple of little problems. Alright, let's talk about the big one in the room, the big controversy, the big non-traversy, honestly. So, America's 250th anniversary, or semi-quincentennial, is coming up, and because of that, Hasbro's decided to do a couple collaboration figures, one of which being the Transformers Star Eagle, a red, white, and blue repaint of Air Razor. And some Transformers fans, specifically fans on the site formerly known as Twitter, are not taking it well. Twitter is undeniably a cesspool for any fandom, but you'd swear to God with the way people are reacting, John Hasbro kicked down their door and just started wrecking up the place. People are not handling it well. I understand that the political climate is more than a little tetchy, to say the least, but here's the thing. It doesn't matter who is in office and who wasn't in office. This thing was going to happen anyway. It's America's 250th anniversary. It's kind of a big deal. You know, most people aren't going to be around for the 300, and a lot of people aren't around for the 200. So I understand why Hasbro's doing it, and if you are so chronically online that you think boycotting a $30 action figure or buying a $30 action figure will change the course of political history, then I got a few bridges I can sell you. It doesn't matter if you're doing it to own the libtards or to fight fascism. This is a toy. And this goes to both sides, the all art is political and no art is political crowds. This thing is chintzy, and it is as political as the Oreos that have red, white, and blue on them for 4th of July, or the Dr. Pepper that is like cream soda themed for 4th of July. This is just a decoration. This has no inherent value and has as much value as you want to put on it. So if you want to expend your energy thinking that this is the most important political baton of our age, then go right ahead. In my opinion, I think she looks okay. I will wait for this to go on discount if I truly want one. I actually do like the Kingdom Air Razor mold, and I think she's fine, but it's very unexciting in the grand scheme of things. I think they could have done a little bit better if they wanted to go whole hog, you know, America on this. She looks decent as is, but nothing exciting. That actually segues pretty well into the G.I. Joe reveals at Toyfair. Super 7 showed off their semi-quincentennial, bicentennial and a half set of figures, including Snake Eyes, Duke, Lady J, and Falcon. And, you know, anniversary figures for G.I. Joe feels a little more appropriate. They are a branch of the U.S. military and all, so being a little extra patriotic and jingoistic fits right in. The figures look okay. Snake Eyes is kind of boring. He just has red on his visor. Duke looks pretty cool with his digital camo shirt, and Falcon actually looks really great. Reminds me a lot of the Supersonic Fighters version of Falcon from back in the day, and I actually think that's a really cool deco. There's also another wave of regular retail O-ring style figures. We've got, I think, a Marvel Comics inspired version of the Hydro Viper, definitely a Marvel Comics version of Flash, the Sunbow animated movie version of Chuckles where he has the white Aloha shirt and blue jeans, and then Diana, the commie chick from the October Guard.
Soviet Union? I thought you guys broke up.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to think.
And honestly, she looks the best out of all of them, if only because she's so unique, with that pink and white fur-lined coat and little pillbox hat. It's pretty dynamic. There's also a Marvel Comics first appearance Cobra Commander figure that got shown off, and he's okay. He's a little dull by my standards, but I'll probably pick him up for my Cobra Commander Focus collection. And we'll finish off the video with the 6-inch classified reveals at Toyfair, not because I didn't find anything else interesting, but because I want to keep it kind of on point and on theme with the channel. You know, it's mostly Transformers and Joe. Whether that's GI or JoJo, you just got to tune in to figure out, but Joes are involved nonetheless. I'm going to start with the one I'm most excited for, and that is Airtight. Airtight is one of my favorite G.I. Joes in general. Like, he's one of my favorite vintage Joes, one of my favorite Joe characters. Him and Shipwreck are probably tied for my favorite, like, G.I. Joe, like good guy, and he's definitely my top 5 vintage figures. And this toy does a really good job of realizing that original card art and bringing it into the modern era. That's one of the things I like about the 6-inch classified Joes, is a lot of them are very true to that original card art. Not necessarily the Sunbow character model or Marvel Comics character model, but the card art you see on those original toys with that really dynamic pulp adventure style. Though, I mean, there is some Sunbow influence on there. He's got the receding hairline of the Sunbow character model. You know, he's got the Island of Temptation, which is very much opposed to his original Marvel Comics appearance, where, I'm not shitting you, he looks like Joseph Joestar.
Listen up! This is something you're going to have to do for yourself! Just tell me what to do and I'll follow your lead, Jojo! Run for your life!
Next up is the Hydro Viper, another figure that I've been wanting for a long time, and again, another very true realization of that original card art. It's a very, very cool figure, very dynamic for the late 80s era of G.I. Joe, especially that mask that's very reminiscent of the creature from the Black Lagoon. It's a great looking figure. The only criticism I have about it is I wish he included multiple interchangeable hands. That was even a problem with the original Joe figure from back in the day, is he always had one hand splayed out as a fin. It's cool that they reference it here with a modern figure. I just wish he had optional parts. Another late wave figure brought into the modern age is Overkill, the Cobra Bat Commander. If I remember correctly, in the vintage era, he was either part of the Sonic Fighters or Supersonic Fighters wave, and had a lot of clear plastic on him, in addition to like light and sound backpack. Here we get rid of almost all of that. He's just green, black, and bronze, and he looks okay. I mean, it's nothing that I'm excited for, but it's not a bad looking figure. A neat little detail is that you can take his faceplate off and see like this desiccated human head underneath. And if I remember correctly, in the original toy bio, he was just like the next generation of Cobra Bats leading the charge. Here, I think it's a reference to that age-old fan theory that Cobra Bats were actually cybernetically enhanced Cobra Soldiers and Cobra Vipers. That was just kind of a miscommunication based off of the card art, but it's kind of a neat detail nonetheless. It's interesting that Joe is leaning a lot more into the horror aspects, and we see that even more with the Night Creeper Dire Tech variant, where he takes some of the parts from Crystal Ball and kind of makes it like this Call of Cthulhu corrupted like ninja soldier. It's a very interesting idea. I like it. I think it looks pretty good when it has like the Cthulhu like Shoggoth demon head on, and I think it'd pair pretty well with like the Operation Monster Force like Rylea commander that they're coming out with. It's interesting. I like the horror aspects. I think it's a fun way to go with G.I. Joe. And keeping on the horror and monster bent, there is the Cobra Law Royal Guard, which looks pretty fantastic, creepy with his helmet off, but a really good realization of that insane body horror design. And the cicada wings look really cool. That's a great shade of blue that they're using. There's also going to be a Lady Crimson Guard, which we've known about for a while. I think this is the first time we're showing off like actual hard prototypes, and she looks good. I like gender swapped versions of characters. There's nothing much to say about her besides solid looking. She can join like the Muammar Gaddafi like all-female fighting force as far as I'm concerned. And then there is the girl Snake Eyes from the IDW comics, Dawn Marino, I think it is. I never read any comics with her in them, but she looks cool. I think she'd look cooler if she had a full face mask on instead of like having the Batman cowl, but you know, it looks good. I dig it. There's a couple more like original character Do Not Steal types here, including Alejandro Borman Luna Mendoza here, codename Sundown. And you know what, saying that out loud, calling somebody Sundown is actually a little more fucked up than like the jingoistic Joes and Transformers that people are complaining about. Okay, like I've been to sundown towns, they ain't fun. Sundown here, Alejandro here, he looks all right. He looks kind of like McCree from Overwatch. You know, we're going full into like the desperado cowboy look. I like the spurs, I like the 6-shooters, I like the cowboy hat and the little poncho and hatchet. The poncho is actually kind of cool with all the fringe and like the Mesoamerican Azteca pattern on that. You know, looks right at home at Steel Ball Run as far as I'm concerned. The only thing I don't like is kind of like his douchey little coif and like neck tattoo. That just screams like Bobby Valaverse, okay? They do have good figures. I like Valaverse figures, but they are just like a little too Steven Seagal for me at times. They're just a little douchey.
I love the fuck out of cookies.
On that note, there's also the Special Forces Action Soldier for the 60th anniversary of the G.I. Joe franchise as a whole. I like the original 60s G.I. Joes. I would love it if they did like a classic deep sea diver, Dixie Cup sailor, you know, GI Marine, and Air Force pilot in the 6-inch scale. This feels a little try-hard. I get that it's Special Forces, but let's be honest here. Sometimes Special Forces operators are more than a little try-hard. Again, goes back into the Bobby Vala problem that I have. Not talking shit about Valaverse. I actually do like their toys, but again, a little much at times. Speaking of try-hard, we've got Professor Rotclaw and his Cobra Deinonychus, and just... oh my god, he looks so bad. This is like one of the worst classified figures in a long time. I like the camp aspects of Joe. I like it when they swing for the fences. The Sunbow cartoon's my favorite for a reason, and this guy is just like, oh my god, he's awful with his like white mohawk and dyed white eyebrows and his like studded leather armor and like hardcore chained up dinosaur. Like, this is dumb. This is like a new metal album cover. He can hang out with Darklon as far as I'm concerned. They should have gotten more like pulp adventure men's magazine style, where it's like, oh no, Cobra found a mosquito that bit a dinosaur and they cloned it, just like Dr. Mangala and his Nazi-saurus Rex from Danger 5, alright?
Cation Pierre, Rock and Roll Mangala, Deluxe Nazi-saurus with Sonar Exoskeleton Attachment, Evolution Chamber, Battlesaurus, and Rapid Fire, each sold separately from Tomiko.
This is nowhere near as cool as Dr. Franz Ferdinand and Scary Monsters and Super Creeps from Steel Ball Run, alright? Another win for JoJo. If they're brave enough, they would have done G.I. JoJo. Alright, I'm fearing too far off topic with that JoJo stuff. So, you know what? We're going to wrap it up with last two figures, last two that matter anyway. Zartan here, Ninja Force Zartan. All right, I love Ninja Force Zartan. Super underrated figure. This is dumb in all the right ways. He's super silly. He's super camp. He's a day glow biker with a bright safety orange mohawk and lime green pants and purple accents. Like, what a silly design, but it works so well in my opinion. There's going to be a video on Ninja Force Zartan soon enough. And this figure is a really, really good modernization of that. So I'm glad that Hasbro finally realized Zartan's true calling as a big gay biker. And that's extra funny because apparently he has a daughter. I bet Zartan forgot about that too. Zanya, and I believe she's from the comics. No, not the Marvel comics. Maybe the Devil's Due or the Dreamwave comics, possibly one of the defunct comic series. She looks pretty badass. She looks like whatever the opposite of a manic pixie dream girl is. Some sort of like absolute nightmare punk chick here. Great overall design. The green dreads look cool. The little spiked collar's cool. I wish he had a little bit more ink. I feel like the hip tattoos are a bit weak, but the crop top's pretty cool with like the little skull deco. It almost for half a second looked like Death's Head from Marvel, and I would have loved that. Hasbro needs to sneak in more Easter eggs and references to their other stuff. Like Chuckles was super cool for having a little Soundwave included with him. Oh, what if instead of like a generic like metal skull, it was like Skullgrin's head from The Pretenders, or even like Bludgeoned? That'd be pretty badass, but I'm getting off track again. I like all the different accessories she comes with. She's got like the machete and pistol from Copperhead, if I remember correctly, which, you know, good reuse, in the flint shotgun as well. She's also got like a very like scary mask. Look, I was pretty hyperbolic at the beginning, calling it a shit show, and so is the thumbnail as well. That's called bait. But to be perfectly frank, the Transformers portion was god awful. Like, whoever is in charge of the Transformers design team, or more importantly their marketing team, needs to get fucking fired at this point. Like, it is bad. G.I. Joe is having a full renaissance over here. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The people in charge of that know what they're doing. I've met a couple of them before. They are fans. They are hardcore into G.I. Joe, and it shows. Last thing I'll leave you with is, thank God I never picked up any of those Loyal Subject mask toys. They do not look good, and I have heard some horror stories about the quality control. I think the only new mask figures I'll ever pick up are going to be some European stuff that I don't have in my collection yet, or those Ramen Toys Machina figures, which look pretty cool. I want to see what weird colorways they do for the Manta. I know these kinds of videos aren't my normal output. If anything, it feels a lot more like, you know, an old school style YouTube rant, except long. So in the meantime, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite or least favorite Toyfair reveal was. Doesn't even have to be anything I talked about here. And stay tuned for another old school or new school action figure review. I'll see you on the flip side.